to the Savage Gaming Top 25 Games of All Time 2024 edition. I'm just going to go through my top 25 games here and hopefully you enjoy this. It's something a little bit different than what I normally do. So let's get things started. Number 25. So my number 25 game is a game that came out a few years ago. Has very cute little dragons that work in shops. My number 25 is Flamecraft. I like this game mainly because it seems pretty simple to teach people. It's almost like a rudimentary worker placement type game that you can teach people who might not normally play those types of games. So I'm very interested in the how the shops work, basically. So on your turn, you go to a shop, gain the resources of any icons on the shop, plus any icons on the dragon. Then you can play a dragon if there's an open spot that matches the type of dragon you have, and then you can activate one of the powers of the dragons that are at that shop. You gather up the resources so that you can do enchantments. These enchantments give you victory points, and that's the gist of the game. The variety of shops that are available that have different powers. There's the basic shops also. The different dragon powers are pretty cool. And the fact that each game's a little bit different. The only suggestion I would have is not playing it at max player count. It seems like the game's a little bit short when you do that. Other than that, it's a pretty good game. Number Number 24. So my number 24 game is a light war game that came out, I believe, last year. And it's very simple to teach to everybody. It uses dominoes basically as your troops. And it's by designer Martin Wallace. The game is Bloodstones. I do know that some people had issues with this game, but I enjoyed it a lot. Didn't have any trouble teaching this game to people that don't even play war games. I just explained to them how the tiles work, which is the basis of the games. You get so many tiles per turn. The rest of the tiles are in the bag. You draw them when you spend them at the end of your turn. And how the tiles work are you have to spend other tiles to place tiles on the board. So one tile might cost 2 tiles to place out. So you have to discard 2 as payment for that troop. The other interesting thing is you only draw tiles at the end, or these dominoes at the end of your turn. So if you're defending, you can spend tiles to defend, but that shortens how many tiles you have to use on your turn. So it's a very interesting concept. I know like some of the complaints I heard was that the maps are cloth and they get wrinkled. I really didn't have that problem myself. Maybe if you like place objects in the corners of the map to make it stay put. Also, when I was playing, I wasn't sliding my dominoes all over the place. I was picking them up and placing them. But it's a very interesting game. There's 6 different factions. They all feel different. And it's very easy to teach, very easy to play. My number 24 is Bloodstones. Number 23. So my number 23 is a game where you're battling ghosts on a train. You're actually um, hopped onto this train as I guess you would be hobos. I guess like, I don't know if that's the proper term for it, but yeah, you hop onto a haunted train and you need to basically fight these ghosts to give them back their humanity. That game is Vagrant Song. Um, it's such an interesting game. How you have so many coins, which are your actions per turn that you can play, but you can place multiple coins on one action to make it more powerful. Also, the AI of the game is that you draw tokens from a bag, and based on what those tokens are, you basically they do different attacks and stuff like that. Everything happens on this board that's just two train cars. But even though you're using the same board, each scenario or each ghost you fight it feels different because there's different setups and different things that are on the board that you can discover. The characters are very interesting. You gain powers that you can use, and it's just a very, very fun game. And I've heard a few people talk about it, but I still think it's kind of underappreciated. So that is my number 23, Vagrant Song. Number 22. So my 22nd favorite game of all time at the moment is a game where you buy plots of land and then build miniature buildings on the plots of land. Very detailed miniatures that you're given for this game. Some people say it's overproduced. I think it's just fine, but that's just the way I am. I like games that have big pieces and stuff like that. But there is a newer version that just uses cardboard tiles. The game that I'm talking about is Foundations of Rome. Foundations of Rome is interesting. It's almost like it's similar to like the placement style of like Acquire, right? So you got, instead of drawing your tiles blindly, you're buying plots of land. Everybody can see where you're buying, so they can actually like plot against you to try to like buy pieces you might need. But once you have enough plots in the shape of the building you want to build, you can then put your building out over those plots of land. You can also build over those buildings as long as the next building is larger. It's such an easy game to teach. It just looks intimidating. And like I said, the new version that came out, I think it's called Foundations of Metropolis or something like that. Uses just cardboard tiles. So if you're intimidated by the miniatures, maybe get that version of the game. Just a fun little game where, based on how you put things out, you gain points based on what buildings are touching your building. So please give it a try. It's a lot of fun. And that is my number 22. Number 21. So, number 21 is a game where there's a huge tech tree that you actually progress on, and each one of these techs give you powers to build ships, give you population, explore different planets. Some people say it's not the most attractive game in the world, but I don't mind the stark design of the tech tree itself. That game is Beyond the Sun. So in Beyond the Sun, you're building out these technologies by placing your populations on there to gain them. And as you open up one technology, it gives you connections to other technologies you can open up. Some of them are hidden until they're actually flipped over. Some may have been flipped over by another player, so then you can go to it after the fact. It's almost like I always say it's almost like a simplified worker placement where you have one worker, right? There's also a little bit of a board off to the side that has like some area control on planets where you can then colonize those planets for victory points, and then new planets come out. It's very interesting. I always have a blast playing this game. I don't care about this board might not be appealing to everybody, um, but it's so much fun. I just wish I could play it more often. Uh, my number 21 is Beyond the Sun. Number 20. So number 20 is part of a trilogy of area control games um, designed by Eric Lang. So you can kind of guess what this might be. It's one of the three. This used to be higher on my list of games in my head, at least, that I enjoyed. But number 20 is Rising Sun. What I love about this game is it really encourages working together with people, especially in that tea ceremony where you can negotiate with people to become like almost like an alliance. Um, and even if you can't get into an alliance, there's always there's the betrayal action, right? Which lets you actually destroy one of anybody's figures off the board. You know, you can destroy a whole bunch of figures. Kind of balances it out a little bit. The only problem I have with this game is I wish it was like slightly longer. It seems like if you're playing in a 4 or 5 player game, there's some players who don't get to go first ever in that game because you only have so many seasons, right? I do like the combat. It's hard to explain sometimes to people that you're actually bidding on doing that action in the combat. So, like, taking a hostage is one bidding thing, or winning the battle, right? Is another one, right? So, using those different things, and the fact that if you win a battle, all those coins go to the loser, so that it kind of balances out losing. If it's not so bad, you can look to see what order the combats are going to happen in, and maybe you need some coins for the next battle that you can get just by losing, right? It's definitely, you can tell it's an Eric Lang design. You can recruit monsters to fight on your side, like Oni and different things. They're very horrifying looking creatures that you can recruit. Like, you know, there's the one Oni that has the bodies hanging off his sword. There's a tree with has like heads hanging in it. It's not for children, obviously, but it is a lot of fun. So number 20 is Rising Sun. Number 19. Okay, number 19 is a game where you're fighting off zombies, coming wave after wave after wave. There's multiple versions of this game out there. I will admit that I have way too much of this in my home right now. And it also comes in a variety of difficulties, depending on which version you got, but I prefer the hardest ones possible. That game is also made by CMON, and it is Zombicide. Now, I have the Undead or Alive version here, but I love Black Plague just as much. I'm really excited to get White Death when it comes out. And I have the Night of Living Dead version, which is also fun, even though the first few scenarios seem pretty easy. It does have a few that get difficult later on. I have played the Invader version. I thought it was way too easy with basically the robot and that helping you. I felt like you were never really in any serious jeopardy in that one. But I think the harder these games are, the more fun they are. Surviving an epic wave of zombies. Like an example of, I had a friend who was surrounded by wolves All the wolves, not just a few, all the wolves were surrounding him. We actually took a picture of it with his miniature surrounded by all the dogs. So it's a classic. It's it keeps getting better with every iteration of it. So hopefully won't hurt my pocketbook in the future anymore. But I do love me some Zombicide, and it seems like everybody who's played it has had a lot of fun with this game. So my number 19 is Zombicide Undead or Alive. Number 18. So, number 18 can really be two different games. For this list, I put down Journeys in Middle-earth. Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth is an app-driven game, obviously. But you could also put Mansions of Madness down also. I love that game just as much. I like there is a little bit of difference between the two. Lord of the Rings obviously has a little bit more combat orientation. Yeah, it's more like focused on combat and solving these puzzles, where like Mansions of Madness is more about investigation. And a lot of those monsters you fight, you probably don't want to fight. You probably want to run away some of the times because they're pretty nasty. You don't want to sit there and slug it out with them. But I like both games. They, like I said, they are app driven, so that's maybe like a negative for some people, but I don't have any issue with it. I've had fun every time I've played these games, and we had a campaign of Journeys in Middle-earth going. Went through two different campaigns, I would say, and it was a blast each time. So that is my number 18, Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth / Mansions of Madness 2nd Edition. Number 17. So 17 is probably my newest game on the list. It came out this year. It's so thematic. It's so much fun. It's a drafting game. I did back the all-in for this, the deluxe version. It's so much fun, and it's always been a dream of mine to go to a certain place in the world, and this game has helped me, at least for the time being. Imagine that. The number 17th game of all time right now, and maybe this is like a little bit of Cult of the New for me, but it's Let's Go to Japan. I really love this game. It's so much fun. It's so thematic. You have different days of the week where you're trying to do a certain type of activity during that day, whether it be like special events, temples, gardens, shopping, eating at restaurants, things like that. But it's so thematic because you're trying to draft them and you're trying to put the right symbols in the right columns, and the ones you put on the bottom actually score you victory points at the end of the game. They're kind of like that day's victory point, big victory point getter for that day. And even like if you don't have a card to play, you do what's called a walk, where you put a card face down. And at the end of the game, you get to see that card, flip it over, and decide which side you want to use. Do you want to use the walk side or the other side based on what you need for that column, which is very thematic. It's almost like, hey, I don't have anything planned this day for my vacation. I'll just go for a walk. I might stumble into something that's pretty fun, basically. Like I said, I do have the deluxe edition, which has the bowls where you put all the bits in, little Japanese bowls, right? There's travel. You're going back and forth between Tokyo and Kyoto. So that's another like point of contention in the game where like, oh, I really like this card, but if I put it here, I have to travel, which might cost me some negative points at the end of the game, because the more you travel, the more train tickets you need. And if you don't have them at the end of the game, you get free ones, which are negative points. So as you can see here, like we're going from Tokyo to Kyoto here and Kyoto to Tokyo here. It's a very fun game. I think there's a lot of strategy to it. Um, just because you are drafting, so in each round you draw so many cards, and then you give 2 cards to your opponent, and you keep play one. Right? You keep doing that, and there's different things that happen depending on what round it is. You might draw 4 cards and keep 2 and pass 2. So great game. Really enjoy it. I think everybody should give it a try if they have a chance. If you're at a convention, it's there. Pick it up, try it. But yeah, that's my number 17. Let's go to Japan. Whoo! 16. Okay. Number 16. Properties. Browse. 16 is... Let me look at these real quick. Okay. Number 16. So if you've been on my channel long enough, you probably know this game is going to be on here. I've had this game for a few years now, but it wasn't until I started playing with the upgrade cards, doing the draft and everything like that, did I really fall in love with this game. It's a game where you're racing around the track over and over and over again. It's Heat, pedal to the metal. Now, I did play the game that this is like almost an offshoot of a long time ago, Flamme Rouge. Didn't really care for that game as much, even though they're very similar. I just think that this game is so much better because of the different upgrades, the different weather conditions, the different track conditions, building strategies based on those different things, and trying to come up with a solution to try to win the race. Now, are you always going to be successful? No, because there is luck involved in this game. You have to be aware of that because you are drawing cards. You might get a bad draw, and there's not much you can do about it. But you're just trying to minimize that from happening. So the more you can minimize, the more options you can give yourself by, maybe having a gas pedal card, which lets you move after you play your cards. Having a wing card in case you're coming in too fast for a turn that you can play on your next turn to ease that heat loss. It's really great. So I did have to put a picture of the black card being at first since I always play black, but this isn't me playing, so but I really do love this game. It's been a lot of fun discovering it and meeting the community behind in BGA that are doing Arena. So yep, number 16 is Heat, pedal to the metal. Number 15. So the last game for this part of the video, because I am going to split this up into 2 different videos, is number 15. This game had basically a spiritual successor come out this year that had a different theme on it, a space theme. But even though I've received it, I haven't had a chance to play it yet. This is a game where you take different factions and you're exploring the land. You're building different things out of your meeples without giving it away. and scoring victory points and having battles with different monsters. That game is Dwellings of Eldervale. Just the production of this game is so great. The game flow is awesome, where you're going to spaces and taking these little tiles here, which are you could trade in for resources immediately, or you can slot them in different places on your own board and cards so that they become permanent ways to gain those resources. There's the monsters out there that you can take control of. It's not the big part of the game, but what's interesting is that you can turn your meeples into these buildings, right? Or what they're called dwellings, right? And then you have less workers to place out, at least your base ones. There's also different types of workers. You know, everybody has a dragon, a wizard, a warrior that have different powers based on the faction that you have. The combat system is pretty simple. You just count how many dice, you need to roll for each figure in your space. You roll those dice and you compare the two highest. If those are tied, you compare the next two, and so forth until you get a winner. I'm really excited about playing the new one, which is Andromeda's Edge. I heard that it's even more streamlined. So I can't wait for that. But for the time being, this is my number 15 game of all time right now, and that's Dwellings of Eldervale. So that was the first part of my list of my top 25 games of all time. Please look out for the next video that's coming, and if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Leave comments about your favorite games down in the comments below, and I'll respond back to you, and have a nice day.